It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
You know, one of these days I'm going to get it right. One of these days I'm going to have everything work correctly. And then you will know that I've been replaced by a robot. Because that, my friends, will never happen. This is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm J. Cal, and I'm your host. And I'm here to talk to you about the NWA. I'm here to talk to you about NWA Power. I'm here to talk to you about the press conference that just happened a few hours ago in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Chase of all places. Don't you know the NWA is going to return to the Chase on August 28th? We're going to get to that. But did you check out this NWA Power lineup? Power Surge lineup? This is actually more akin to an NWA Power episode. There's 3 matches on the card. What is going on? This is kind of like what we've always wanted. Are the NWA, are they listening to us on Thursdays, guys? Are they listening to the hashtag NWA fam here on the Talk NWA community? I don't know, man. I'm feeling jacked up. I've got my Monster Energy drink, not a sponsor, but if they'd like to be, please send all inquiries to Jason at Alliance-Wrestling.com. No, this is a very exciting Tuesday. We did see that press conference. And first of all, I want to ask you guys, I mean, what did you think of the press conference? We had this opportunity where the NWA was focused. I mean, they were at the Chase. They were at the hotel. They were presenting some information with regards to the pay-per-view. Personally, I'm kind of excited about the pay-per-view. Both pay-per-views, not because of all the matches that they've announced, but because of the historical implications for return to the Chase, right? Sam Munchnick was the president of the NWA back in 1950. He was also the booker, if you will, the booking office for Lou Thez, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. And as excited as I am about the champ, as excited as I am about the NWA next pay-per-view, the Chase, that historical significance, I think is so important. And if you kind of read between the lines here, and if you guys watch the press conference, let me just sit back and tell you, are we on the verge of the NWA having a second wrestling show? Let the speculation begin, fellas. Let's talk about that, right? The National Wrestling Alliance, which has always been since its debut back in 2017, looked for a home for nearly 2 years before landing down in Atlanta at the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios. Thank you, Lou Seals, for helping out find that home for the NWA Power. And the NWA kind of became synonymous with this Atlanta wrestling scene. This, the home of the old NWA, right? Just a stone's throw away from where the old NWA studio tapings were filmed in Georgia with Georgia Championship Wrestling. And he kind of felt like this would have been akin to the home of the NWA. And now we know that they did the lost my train of thought there. We know that they did the first Rockett Cup in Charlotte. They did the 70th anniversary show in Nashville, and it felt like Atlanta was kind of becoming the home base operations for the NWA. But if you listened in between the lines during this press conference today, something that stuck out with me is that Billy Corgan specifically said if it were up to his druthers, which I hate that word, if it was up to Billy, they would return to the chase more regularly and have their own series at the chase. Now, that could mean lots of things, right? That could mean that either maybe they're planning to do 2 shows, which I think would be amazing. Maybe they're going to do Power in Missouri. That also, to me, would be amazing. I'm not exactly sure what the plan is for the National Wrestling Alliance and the chase, but if this is just going to be the for this set of tapings, or if this is going to be a more permanent home, or maybe they're going to try to do 2 different shows, which I think they're ready for it. I think they're ready to do it. I mean, obviously, we know for a fact Ring of Honor is starting to sign some more women talent. Major League Wrestling shocked us all by bringing in Slice Boogie, our Slice Boogie, and Danny Limelight as a new LAX for Major League Wrestling. Talent is starting to get signed up, and we have a few guys we know that are under contract with the NWA currently, but maybe it's time. Maybe it's time the NWA branches out. Give us a reason to have 2 single secondary titles. Give us more wrestling. What do you guys think? What if they did a show just locally in St. Louis, right? And maybe they made a few of those matches available online, and then continued with Power as the subscription, as maybe the premiere show, but having a secondary show at the chase. What are your guys' thoughts? I'd love to read them. I'd love to see them. But in the meantime, let's say what's up to everybody that's here checking us out. Again, part of what makes Tuesday so much fun, part of what makes Tuesday so awesome is our interaction, my interaction with you guys, seeing you guys show up, seeing you guys be here. I got Lamb is in the house, Wrestling with the MMA's here. Terry McDermott, Heebs is back. Dave Scooby's in the house, and he wants to remind you all, if you like it, comment and subscribe, follow, share it, be a part of this community. We also have a Discord channel. If someone can grab the link and share it, I'd greatly appreciate it. We've got Big Chris Dog's in the house. Craig is in the house. Fiona's here. Our boys over at the PWZ podcast is here. So yeah, man, we got a full house. There's 15 of you crazy, just awesome NWA fans that are here, and I am so grateful for you. So let's get to it, right? I see that Lamb says that he thought that the press conference was a waste of time. You know, my thought about that press conference was there was not a lot of new information. Now, I think it's very, very cool that they introduced Tootie Lynn as the first entrant, right? The first announced entrant into the Women's Invitational Cup. The idea of this becoming a regular part of the anniversary show, I think this is a pretty cool idea. It sounds like if this thing goes well that going forward, the anniversary show might become a 2-day event. And I think that's really, really cool because, one, the NWA can definitely find women's talent. I mean, they've proved it time and time again. When Marty Bell was introduced to the NWA, yes, she had wrestled a few matches in Shimmer. Yes, she had wrestled a few matches under Ring of Honor, but she wasn't very well known. Now, I'm not saying that she is a superstar right now, but she certainly benefited from being involved with the NWA. Of course, Thunder Rosa, she had doors slammed on her, trying to get to that next level. After being a part of the Lucha Underground, it was hard to try to get anyone to take her seriously. And her work that she put in the NWA absolutely led to her getting signed by AEW. And so I don't think the NWA is going to have a problem finding women to have a yearly show. And you can see the roster that they have now with Kylie Rae, with Melina, with Genocide, with Lady Frost. Lady Frost appeared on Impact Wrestling last week, but I actually tweeted at her and said, "Hey, are you done with the NWA?" And her response was, "The door is open everywhere." So I think that's pretty cool. We're going to see a lot more things going on like that. Let's see. Craig said last week's episode of Power was great as well, with all the matches they featured, less talking, more matches, and good wrestling show. Craig, I'm not going to say it was great, but I think it was a step in the right direction. I think the show has improved. I think that they're starting to take these little tweaks and they're starting to apply them. We don't need to have Nick Aldis cut a promo every week. As much as you love him or hate him, less is more. He's the world's heavyweight champion. He doesn't need to be on every episode. He is the face of the NWA. He is the ambassador of the National Wrestling Alliance. But there's a roster filled with people. And as we're going to see even this week, we're seeing some names we haven't seen in months. We haven't seen Jeremiah Plunkett since the first episode, since the pay-per-view, when he challenged Luke Hawk for the pre-show for the TV title qualifier match. Fiona's in the house. Welcome, Fiona. I don't know if I said that already. Let's see. Heeb says the presser got awkward at the end. Any questions? Anyone at all? Anybody? Anyone? Yeah, that was kind of weird. And they kind of did that too at the only other press conference I got to attend live was the ahead of the NWA Power episode. And luckily you had some wrestling heads there. You had me, you had Gary Horn, you had a couple other gentlemen there and ladies who knew about wrestling and were there to ask questions. Now, I think this press conference was more of like a pep rally, trying to get the local audience excited about this. The folks in Missouri, that Wrestling for the Chase was a program that aired for 24 years as an NWA exclusive program, and then down the road the WWE even taped matches there. So that Chase is very historic, has a lot of sentimental historical value. I think it was weird that, you're right, when they offered to answer any questions from the press remained quiet. So that was a little on the odd side. And Lamb says that our Slice Boogie, yeah, I know, he's in Major League Wrestling. But the thing is, right, and it's something we have to take into consideration, that those forbidden doors that were once shut, that you could only wrestle in one spot, that seems to be a thing of the past. Or at least a thing for the, only the WWE, because you're seeing talents who are signed to Impact Wrestling appearing on New Japan of America programming. I mean, if you guys are watching that show, you've got TJ Perkins teaming up with not Carl Fredericks. The other guy's name, and I can't think of it right now. Clark Connors to take on, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson and Luke Gallows, formerly of the Bullet Club. And those are Impact wrestlers, TJ Perkins as well, wrestling on a New Japan program. You've got the Impact champion who's simultaneously the AEW World Champion. You've got, like we said, Lady Frost appeared on Impact. She's also still working with the NWA. So I can't tell you for sure that Slice Boogie is exclusive to MLW. I haven't heard anyone say that they're exclusive. We just know that they're part of the new LAX with Conan. So, as far as I know, they're still the bodega in Hollywood, unless you guys know something I don't. Craig says Fred Rosser has also been signed by New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, and Craig, and the thing about Fred Rosser is that was an exclusive deal. With Fred Rosser, he's exclusive to New Japan of America, so we probably won't see him back in the NWA, which I mean, kind of, that sucks because it sounds like they were building something up last week with him coming out there and asking for the referee to ring the bell, which I also thought was weird. No one could find a white towel or white t-shirt to throw in the ring, which kind of seemed like it was setting up something with Jay the God, JTG, after he was wrestling Chris Adonis for that NWA National Championship. It seems like they could have done more for that. Heeb says the chase is 4 hours away from him, so for at least one quarterly taping in St. Louis. Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty cool, right? How cool is that for you? You're able to be there and be a part of that and not have to fly halfway across the country. One of the drawbacks of being a Southern California native, the benefit was when the NWA was heavily involved with Dave Marquez, I was getting to see the world champion. I was able to interview a lot of the talents involved with the NWA. That is kind of gone. There is no connection there anymore. So, going to Atlanta is not easy. Going to St. Louis isn't easy. And if the NWA does plan to do some quarterly work in St. Louis and Atlanta, maybe they're planning to do multiple tapings. I've heard that they, at one point, were looking at going back to Tennessee to tape more shows. So I think all the way around, I mean, this is kind of good for the NWA. It's good for the fan base. It's going to help cultivate that fan base when you could bring people who don't normally get to go to the show. Because there's nothing like going to the wrestling show live, right? There's nothing like being in that NWA Power audience. I was there. It was phenomenal. That's where you see guys like the Question Mark get over like amazingly. We don't typically see stuff pick up like that. So that I'm very excited about. Yeah, Fiona says it was a smart move introducing the local talent off the bat. I agree. I think that was a very, very calculated move. I think that's a great idea because not only does that give that talent exposure, it connects the fan base in St. Louis with what they're doing there in the NWA. But it also, everyone who sees that Tootie Lynn that saw her name, they're now Googling her. They're now going on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and they're friend requesting, and they're checking out her YouTube videos. They're going to Cage Match and pulling up her match history. They're going to our friends over at the wrestling, MissouriWrestlingRevival.com to check out more information about her, which is good for her, and it's also good for the NWA. I think that's a very symbiotic relationship that they continue to feed, and they bring in more local talent. Maybe it's not. Maybe we're not going to get Donna Perazzo or Jordan Lynn Grace or Tessa Blanchard. And maybe that's even better that we don't. Maybe we're going to get those lesser-known females. Maybe we will see somebody like Ruby Reyes or somebody on that stature, Viperous, or somebody like that maybe is lesser known on the global scale, because you're competing with Ring of Honor and Major League Wrestling right now. And remember, Major League Wrestling brought in Shimmer's, I can't remember his name right now. I'm sure someone else will say it in the comments. But they're bringing in Shimmer's owner to help run the women's division for Major League Wrestling. And I think that's a huge coup. Let's see. Heeb says Allison Kay just won the AAW women's title, and AAW is the tippy top Midwest indie. I mean, that's awesome. Allison Kay is another great athlete that I hope finds her way back into the NWA, and of course with the 73rd anniversary show and Empower. I think there's opportunity for her to make a return. I also heard someone say something about Santana Garrett would be a great addition back into the NWA. I don't know what Santana Garrett's going to do since she's been released, but I think the timing starts to line up where she would be able to compete at both of these pay-per-views. So we'll have to wait and see. Lamb says he found it weird when Camille was surprised that she had to talk on the press conference and call it a promo. Yeah, I kind of hate when they break the kayfabe and start using insider speak, but look, it's not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, it didn't change a whole lot. Heebs also says that TK opening Tony Khan opening the Forbidden Door has changed the game for everyone outside of the WWE, and he wouldn't be surprised if MLW, NWA, Ring of Honor, Impact all wind up with the same talent at their tapings. See, Heebs, that I don't want. There's, if we could pick and choose and take some pieces, but so to equate it to a story of Southern California pro wrestling, thank you, Wrestling from MMA, saying Dave Prazerick, who was the owner of Shimmer, who is now helping run the women's division of Major League Wrestling. That was the name I was looking for. But one of the problems, I think, is you get this oversaturation of talent, and if it's everybody on the same show, it starts becoming less must-see TV, right? In Southern California, we have this weird dichotomy where there were several wrestling promotions, and early 2000s, we had XPW, UPW. UPW was kind of like a third-level developmental promotion for the WWE, and then you had APW up north, and you had EWF in the east, and these promotions didn't share talent. Everybody was more or less exclusive to wherever they were training at. So if you saw an XPW guy like Joey Chaos or Shane Douglas, like, you weren't going to see them at UPW. You weren't going to see Samoa Joe end up at XPW or Samoa Joe at an EWF show. And then that all changed in the mid-2000s, and everyone was going everywhere. And it was awesome at first because you got all these dream bouts. But then after a while, every card looked the same, and there was no uniqueness, and everything just kind of got ugh. And it did kind of birth Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which is one of the top wrestling promotions in the area, because they were able to, get the top cream of the crop from Southern California, and then would bring in talents from outside to make real dream matches. And then these Southern California matches, the same matches you'd see everywhere else, just kind of got boring. So I don't want to see that happen to the larger wrestling scale. I'm okay with a guy like Jon Moxley bouncing back and forth between AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, and New Japan Pro Wrestling in Japan. I'm okay with guys like Kenny Omega appearing in Impact as the world champion and in AEW. But I think when all of these guys start appearing on the same shows, you're going to have this logjam of talent, and I think that's when things are going to start getting boring and disappointing. Dave Scooby was at the MLW tapings and at Ring of Honor on Sunday, and he said it was great seeing fans at the live events and just seeing wrestling kind of return to what it used to be. I think that's awesome. Craig says TJ Perkins is a prime example of someone who is being allowed to wrestle all over the place at the moment, despite his contractual status. Yeah, I mean, I don't think a whole lot of that is a good thing, but we'll have to wait and see. Lamb says Impact wants to move their TV tapings to Las Vegas, so Tennessee is open for sure. I didn't know that. That would be pretty cool. That would be good for Southern California and the Las Vegas wrestling scene if Impact was in Las Vegas. Where would they tape, though? Would they take over the Orleans Arena? Would they start taping at the old... where were they taping before? At the Sam's Town? We called it Smash Town. He says, I heard something about Impact putting their TV on YouTube. Yeah, I heard that on the Busted Open show. Bully Ray was mentioning that. I think that's a good idea. I mean, at some point, the easier it is for your audience to find you, the better off it is. If you're trying to sell pay-per-views, if that's where your major money is coming from, then having eyeballs to see your product, I think, is super important. Where I think we're finding that out with the NWA when they went to a pay-only option. I can't say for sure. I don't know the business model. No one's shown me the ROI. No one's shown me, profit and loss statements. But I imagine that the pay-per-view numbers are down overall because there's only a segmented audience that is still getting NWA Power, and I think that's why you're seeing more matches appear on YouTube, and they're bringing back bringing high voltage to YouTube, and they're bringing some scattering of matches, and they're doing a pre-show on YouTube because I think that's going to help generate more pay-per-view buys for them, and I think that's necessary for their growth. So we'll see how that goes. Dave Scooby says he hopes to see a few talent from Harley's organization involved at the pay-per-views. I think that would be great. Look, I don't need to see Harley's kid in the match. I'm sorry, he's not that good. But sure, I don't have a problem with him being on the card. I don't have a problem with him showing up. I don't have a problem with him having a match on the show, certainly. And I think that's kind of one of the benefits of traveling is you could bring in more guys for your undercard who aren't just, local to Tennessee or Atlanta or that tri-state area. Craig says, yeah, Impact Wrestling has started their own YouTube Premium subscription service. Apparently, it includes all past pay-per-views and Impact shows. I don't know if this is different from Impact Plus. I don't know. I'll have to see more about it. Lamb says FSW Arena, I think, or Sam's Arena or something. Yeah, Sam's Town. That's Sam's Town was kind of a popular place there for a while. FSW was taping there. I know Impact had taped a few episodes there. Ring of Honor has taped at the Sam's Town little venue. I've been there. I was there to see the what was it called? Wow, brain's just not working today. Ring Warriors. That's where I saw Ring Warriors. That was shortly lived on WGN and on Amazon Prime. That was pretty cool. Yeah, Harley's Kid is a wrestler. I'm so bad with names today. I can't think of it, but I'm sure someone else will bring it out there. Chris Drummond says, please don't revive the Missouri title. I think that bringing the Missouri title back... Okay. So to be perfectly honest, the NWA has more titles than talent. And that's not to be an insult, but, to have a good division, you should probably have at least 5 to 10 reasonably good challengers for each title. I don't think you have 5 to 10 reasonably good challengers for the 10 pounds of gold, let alone the television championship or the national championship or the tag team division. So yeah, I would not bring the Missouri title back now, but if they did decide to do their own version of Wrestling at the Chase, and they did decide to have a secondary hour of programming every week, or maybe even a 2-hour programming in Missouri, whatever the plan is, if you can create opportunity, then maybe that would be their own version of the TV title. I don't have a problem with that. Bringing in a Missouri championship, if they're going to be in the state of Missouri, I don't think that's such a bad thing. Under the current circumstances, absolutely not. But if the brand is considering growing, and if this plan is to continue at the Chase to help grow the brand, absolutely, I'm all for it. Dave Scooby, thank you. Leland Race, I could not think of his name for the life of me. Lamb, Harley's Kid is Leland Race. He did challenge for the 10 pounds of gold. If you go back, well, I guess you can't go back because they pulled it all off of YouTube, but a lot of the videos that you saw from the 10 pounds of gold where Nick and Harley had a sit down, a meeting from years after when Nick had those programs with World Legion Wrestling and training under Harley. Leland was actually chosen to challenge Nick Aldis for the 10 pounds of gold at that show at WLW. Lamb says, imagine having a new title which booking is better than the national title right away. Yeah. Can we talk about how bad that booking decision was for the national title, for it to go right back on the Chris Mordertsky, the masterpiece, Chris Adonis, whatever you want to call him? When you abdicate the title, it just doesn't make sense to me to put the belt right back on the same guy. You had all this opportunity to do something different in any stretch of the imagination. Anywhere you wanted to go, this could have been different. Now, you could have put that belt eventually back on Adonis. You could have built this up into a feud. You could have turned this into a storyline. But to put the belt right back on Adonis just shows me a lack of creativity and a lack of imagination. You did nothing to help grow the brand with this. You did nothing. In fact, the national title seems more meaningless and useless than it did before Adonis abdicated it. So now I just have the feeling like this was just a waste of time. Why even put that stipulation into the contract that he had to forfeit the title in order to participate in the Battle Royal? It just didn't do anything. It did absolutely nothing. NWA Gold says, you don't want a Missouri title. they are trying to look national, not regional, I'd prefer they leave the straps be. Yeah, I mean, I see that point too. But in my delusions of grandeur, and when I think that I know better than Billy Corgan, which I don't, look, my guesses are just as bad as anyone else's. But if I was trying to produce pro wrestling and being able to run the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios 4 days for like 3 months of programming, I'm going to continue to do that no matter what. And I'm going to call it NWA Power no matter what, because that to me is NWA Power. But if I could take another 4 days a month or another 4 days every 2 months and do the same thing with the Wrestling for the Chase or Wrestling at the Chase in St. Louis, Missouri, and maybe don't go the route of Power, but maybe make it something separate, maybe even a more regionalized programming, maybe making that a St. Louis only exclusive with occasionally putting matches from that show on YouTube. Now you're onto something. I mean, to me, and again, these are delusions of grandeur. I'm not in charge, and honestly, I don't think anyone's listening to what I have to say. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Lamb says, can the NWA afford a new show brand right now when Power struggles? Since returning, the booking is not great on the main show. Why should a new why would a new show change that? You're right, Lamb. That wouldn't change anything. Nothing would really change. I think you're just having that opportunity, and of course, there is incentives to having more programming. There's advertising dollars. There's there's that content that you're creating for YouTube that could help produce more dollars for the brand. Like, it's not a fix-all, it's not a solve-all, but just an idea, just spitting it out there, right? Heeb says, hear me out. Now, what if Murdoch wins at 10 pounds and he says in Mizzou, and he stays in Mizzou to lead Wrestling at the Chase TV while Aldous and company use the national title to lead Power? I mean, I don't hate that either, right? Like, look, I don't need Aldous being the national champion. In fact, if Aldous loses the 10 pounds of gold, I think it's time for him to take a break. I think it's time for him to step back. And I'm not saying be gone, but step back. If he wants to team up with maybe Tom Latimer to go after the tag titles, that is interesting to me. That I think is good. I think you could work something out with that. But if he loses the 10 pounds of gold, I don't want him to automatically jump into that national title hunt. I think it needs time. Jonathan Burrell says, I have been watching some SWE. Ryan Moonshine Mantell would be an awesome fit. Yes, absolutely. The SWE has done this phenomenal job of blending new and old, especially in the state of Texas. And a lot of these young lions out there in Texas, no pun intended, are starting to get some rub, starting to get some shine. And a guy like Ryan Moonshine Mantell is certainly a guy who is capable of being a little bit more than just a regional guy. I know the NWA isn't exactly banging down the doors for regional guys. They're kind of looking more for established guys who were formerly in the WWE that never got that opportunity, who could cut promos, who could wrestle well, and I think that would be great. But I also think there is room for a guy like Moonshine Mantell, and I think they should. I agree with you. By the way, Jonathan, I agree with you. And then Lamb says, the moment Dave Marquez lands in Missouri in the next 6 months, then good luck, NWA. Look, Dave Marquez has got this grand plan that none of us are fully aware of. They just announced recently that they were bringing championship wrestling to the Sunshine State. They're bringing Bulletproof to host a NWA Hollywood regionalized program in the great state of Florida, Tampa, I think, to be direct, and that's hopefully going to lead to more programming for the United Wrestling Network in Florida. Of course, Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, I think it's got pushed back to September, but it's still something that all of this is in play. New York is in play, upstate New York, not New York City. Missouri's in play. Texas is in play. I think there's just so much cool stuff happening with the United Wrestling Network. Maybe I should start doing a podcast about that. But nevertheless, let's get back to the NWA, back to your comments. He says, it looks like Marquez was about to open his own territory system with the United Wrestling title as a traveling championship, kind of like the NWA in the good old days. Heebs, you're 100% correct. For years, the United Wrestling Network was trying to find some semblance similar to what the NWA was doing. The problem is egos, right? Everybody in wrestling has an ego. Even the coolest dude you know has an ego. And nobody wants to be told what to do or what to recognize. So what Marquez did, instead of partnering with already existing promotions, is he's creating promotions, and he's partnering with the people who are going to be running these promotions. A perfect example is the Stars in Memphis. Dustin and Maria Starr started off as just doing a regionalized version of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and now they're doing their own program, and that show's killing it. And if you watch that show, it's getting better and better each and every week. Hell, they just brought in the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer, or Lance Hoyt. What is he going by these days? They brought him in to do a set of tapings. So I think United Wrestling Network is setting up its own territory system akin to what the NWA used to be. It's kind of sad that they didn't have some sort of working relationship. Could you imagine having Nick Aldis being able to go to each and every one of those territories and defend the 10 pounds of gold? It would have been pretty awesome. Lamb says Hollywood, Arizona, Memphis, Atlanta, Florida, next St. Louis, North Carolina. I mean, the sky's the limit with Dave Marquez. Hell, at one point he was even talking about doing a show in China. I mean, not just a one-off, but actually bringing the United Wrestling Network to China. Terry McDermott says SWE Fury is like a modern-day version of World Class in the 80s. Yeah, and it is. It's very much like that. I also kind of liken it to what ECW was in the late 90s. And I'm not talking about the garbage wrestling or the over-the-top gimmicks or the silly stuff, but they had this ability to blend some of the older known talents, right? Like Terry Funk and Mick Foley and Steve Austin, and blend them with these guys that nobody really knew of, like the Sandman and Raven and Tommy Dreamer and the Dudley Boys. And you had this mix of talent, and they were able to create something really special even after they left the NWA. So it's one of those things that I think that SWE Fury, if they keep going along, I mean, they could really do something special there in the great state of Texas, and I hope they do. Lamb, I don't have that link right now. Fiona says, I just need to get to St. Louis. I'd love to be at the Chase. I've booked a hotel and waiting on Biden to let me enter the States before I book my flight. Send positive vibes. Fiona, you got my positive vibes. I hope you get to go to the Chase. I haven't booked anything because I won't be there, but I'm really looking forward to it. I will be watching. I will be ordering the pay-per-view, but not until they announce a card. You hear me, Billy Corgan? You will not get my money until a card is announced. But you'll get my money. Sean Mega says UWN programming is boring, though. I mean, everybody has their own unique taste. I'm more akin with the Marquez style of producing television. I've been watching his shows since 2003. I remember going to the original New Japan USA TV tapings. I think that as these shows continue to grow and the talent continues to get better, you're going to like what you see. And if you don't, that's okay too. You're welcome to check out everything else. There's so much wrestling right now. There's certainly not a lack of good quality wrestling. Jonathan Burrell says the national title should be a story belt and the TV title a work rate belt. The Pope Tyrus story could be a lot less confusing for the national belt than working around a 605. Here's where I'm going to say I disagree. And the only reason why I disagree, Jonathan, is because I feel like, honestly, the TV title is perfect for a guy like Tyrus, because you can hide a lot of the weaknesses that Tyrus has in 6 minutes and 5 seconds. He doesn't need to go out there and wrestle a Mat Classic. He just needs to go out there and beat somebody up. And I think he could do that in 6 minutes and 5 seconds and have it be believable and have it be fun. And I'm excited. I mean, I would be okay with that. I would be okay with Tyrus having that belt. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get the Discord server here in the chat. So if you guys would like to sign up, because we're doing that now. We're doing the Discord channel. We've been doing it for a while. We'd like to have more of you there, of course. If you haven't got an invite yet, it's not because we don't want you there. It's just, honestly, I haven't really invited anybody in, or not too many people in. But there it is. It's in the chat. You guys can click that link. I'll also put it in the comments later. We're doing a lot more conversations on that channel, and hopefully down the road you're going to see us do a lot more by the way of group discussions and maybe even group chats that maybe we'll post online. Heeb says, rest in peace, Jocephus, but I remember this mixed tag match being bad. Jocephus, this isn't the mixed tags match. Oh, yeah, it is. You're right, it is. It's Tim Storm teaming with Dave Arquette versus Jocephus and his spiritual advisor. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not going to be great, but, like, look, the thing about Jocephus is he brought a lot of creativity to the NWA. He tried to do things different, and for that, I celebrate him. For that, I tip my hat to the man. You don't have to like everything that he did, but there was certainly a lot of passion for the pro wrestling. There was a lot of passion for what he did, and it was all meant in fun. This match, that's the thing. We haven't even talked about Power Surge yet. We'll get to that in just a few minutes because we only got a few minutes left. But Power Surge normally isn't known for its wrestling matches. It's more of a recap show, but we have 3 matches. We've got Marche Rockett wrestling against Jeremiah Plunkett. Like I said earlier, the last time we saw Jeremiah Plunkett was at When Our Shadows Fall. Marche Rockett really hasn't spent a whole lot of time in front of the camera either on the last few episodes of NWA Power. So I'm happy to see this match. I think the last time we saw Marche Rockett, he was seconding Slice Boogie backstage with Mae Valentine. So I'm excited about that. Then we're also going to get Jordan Clearwater in action. Now, Terry, I know you're excited about that because you're finally going to see your boy, the golden boy, if you will, Jordan Clearwater, and he'll be in action against Papa Jive and Rush Freeman. Now, Papa Jive is a student of Austin Idol. We're finally going to see someone from the Idol-fornia Wrestling College, Kayfabe College. I don't know what they're calling that school. I know that they're based in South Carolina. I told Will from the This Is Pro Wrestling podcast that he should help them out with their website because this guy, that website's trash. But Papa Jive is going to be in the ring, and Rush Freeman, he's a student of the Nightmare family, which is Cody and Dustin Rhodes' wrestling school. So again, I think this is kind of cool. We're seeing some wrestlers we normally wouldn't see. They're getting an opportunity to wrestle on the NWA against a well-established guy like Jordan Clearwater, who really hasn't had an opportunity to shine in the NWA just yet. So this triple threat match could be fun. You might get to see a lot more out of Mr. Jordan Clearwater than what you've seen recently. And then, of course, the Arquette versus Jocephus match. Some of you have already seen that match. Some of you have already watched the pop-up event from 2019. I mean, that's what kind of kicked off the road to power, believe it or not, was the success with that show combined with the success from the Rockett Cup, which really kind of led to the NWA going all in for power, no pun intended. So it's exciting. I think we should all check it out. Hey, Jimmy from the LB's here. Welcome to the party, pal. NWA Gold says, I feel like Marquez and Corgan each have what the other needs. Established territories to travel a champion through on one hand and the NWA brand on the other. It's too bad that partnership is done. Yes, agreed 100%. I don't think anybody fostered the NWA legacy better than what Dave Marquez did with his time as being the custodial for the NWA brand. He put so much money into that brand. He put so much dedication to that brand. You got to remember, when Dave Marquez was promoting the NWA, and we were talking about the NWA was running high school gyms and bingo parlors. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but Dave Marquez had that 10 pounds of gold on smaller arena shows. Remember, it was Dave Marquez and his little engine that put the NWA 60th anniversary show at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. It was Dave Marquez that brought the NWA to Atlanta long before Billy Corgan did it. And that title, I mean, sure, it wasn't seen around the world, but they had local television out here in Southern California. There was a lot of positive things about the time Dave Marquez was in the NWA and one of the custodials, one of the janitors of the NWA. I guess that's a stupid thing to say, but ultimately nothing lasts forever. Dave Marquez has to do what's best for Dave Marquez, and the relationship with the NWA was just not working out. So he has his United Wrestling Network. It was smart for him to do that. They have the title. They have the talent. They need to keep pushing. They need to bring in some bigger known names, and it's going to be must-see TV. I really believe that. So I'm excited for what happens down the road for the United Wrestling Network. Jonathan Burrell says the national title should be a story belt and the TV title a work rate belt. Okay, we already got to that. Terry McDermott says, can you imagine an Aldis Aaron Stevens tag team if Nick loses the 10 pounds of gold? I mean, that'd be bonkers, but it wouldn't be awful. I mean, I really respect the work of Nick Aldis. I know people think I hate the guy. I don't. I think he's a great competitor. He's been a great champion. I just think the monotony of him holding the 10 pounds of gold and the same kind of formulaic booking that they've used for him, they've never really put a solid competitor in front of him. We talked about this on Thursday nights. Eli Drake should have had an opportunity to challenge for that title. Those promos would have been money. They were too little too late, but remember Primetime Live was building towards Nick Aldis versus Eddie Kingston. Again, those promos would have been money. Nobody in the NWA, sans maybe the Pope, can cut a promo as good as Nick Aldis. Aldis is the complete package, and everyone else is just second class, with the exception of maybe the Pope. So I really like how they're building up Trevor Murdoch. It took a while for them to get there, but where they're going now, that last promo, like, he knows that he got in Aldis's head. I think they're heading for good things. I'm excited about that. Man, you guys are awesome. Okay, Lamb corrected me. There's the Nightmare Factory, which is Cody, and Rhodes Wrestling Academy, which is Dustin. I didn't know that. Sorry, guys. Craig joined the Discord. Awesome. Thank you. Ron's in the house. No worries, Ron. We appreciate you being here. Wow, we're getting ready to wrap up the show. Chris Drummond says Alberto is reviving the NLL. Would you want to see Aldis versus Alberto? I'll be honest, I don't want to see the NWA anywhere near Alberto. That guy's kind of a cancer and has done a lot of things to really, muck up his own name. And I said muck, not the other word. He really did a lot of things to hurt his own brand, and I don't see anybody wanting to work with that guy. I think it's just, when you pick up a snake, you know it's a snake. And when a snake bites you, you can't be mad at the snake for doing what a snake does. Willie Bowen's in the house. Willie, you're late. We start at 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern. Just kidding, guys. And then Lamb says, also thought we got Dickinson versus Aldis at Primetime Live before Aldis took his title and went home. Yeah, I don't know that you were ever going to get that match. Speaking of Dickinson, you guys know that he and Homicide just won the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, and that's something else we'll talk about next week. Didn't get a lot of chance to talk about that now because we're running out of time. But Homicide, who just appeared for the NWA last week, is now a Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion with Chris Dickinson, who was slated to be in the finals for the Primetime Live United Wrestling Network World Championship. It's funny how things work. Sorry, I'm laughing because I read Lamb, who said time for Ellsworth versus Aldis 2, up to 2 million views. No, we will not do that. Lamb, we will not do that. Let's see. Seems like there's a lot of anti-Alberto sentiment here. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Jonathan Burrell says, is there a tag team you think could be brought in to help the division? Please give the War Kings a chance. Look, man, they did bring in some tag teams. The NWA just doesn't want to do anything with them. You got Hawksari, who would have been perfect. The storyline from, being a contestant on this Circled Squared to making it to that tag team division. That's a perfect storyline. PJ Hawks is going to be a superstar. You heard it here first. Then they brought in the End, which is Paro and and Odinson. That combination right there, those dudes are awesome. They didn't do anything with them. They had them job out to Strictly Business. They haven't really done anything with those guys. And then you have, they brought in La Rebellion, who they seem to be building up very, very good. But again, they're sitting there wondering why they're not getting tag team titles matches. So, and then this whole storyline between Kratos and Stevens, we're finally coming to a conclusion where it looks like they're going to be on the same page, but who cares? When you're wrestling bums, it's not a big deal. And I'm sorry, but that division is probably the weakest link of the NWA. Terry McDermott just said it. NWA wants 3-ways over tag team bouts. Lamson says NWA hates tag team wrestling. Dave Scooby says Dickinson and Homicide match was great. Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about it. Dave LaGreca was putting it over huge on Busted Open Radio. That's funny. I just started listening to that show, and I think it's pretty good. So that's going to do it, guys, because there's only about 8 minutes left till it's all time for us to go watch NWA Power Surge. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week. Man, I was so excited to see so many faces here. A lot of returning faces, a lot of faces I haven't seen in a while. Thank you guys so much for being here. Of course, this is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. If you want to support this podcast, this show, you can get one of these dope hats, one of these badass t-shirts by going to Alliance-Wrestling.com and check the merch link. Of course, you don't have to put any money into this podcast, but if you enjoy it, I really would appreciate you giving us a thumbs up and a like and a follow, or sharing this on all your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are at the Alliance blog on all of those outlets. We're also on TikTok. I don't do dances. I'm not doing any, dances. But we do have a lot of fun on the social media, so I wouldn't mind a like or follow there either. And again, we'll be back Thursday night, and that's where the Alliance guys come together. That's DKM, who is a wrestling historian who rivals the likes of Dr. Robert Stinson. And we get a former World Junior Heavyweight Champion in Kevin Frazier. He carried the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship for nearly a year, wrestled on both sides, East and West Coast, on television and all over. If you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the pre-party, I'm sure you're going to enjoy the Alliance Guys podcast. And again, that show is on every Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel. Not bat time, I lied. It's at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And again, it's also available audio only via all your favorite podcast listening apps, Google, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You can check us out there. Gary Horn is in the house. He's my guy, don't you know? I was telling him, Gary, that we were at that first press conference, and that's when I first knew that I had feelings for you, Gary. Intimate feelings, Gary. Anyways, I do appreciate you guys checking us out. As always, let's go watch NWA Power, and then afterwards, you guys can go to the NWA YouTube channel, check out the Bearded Trio, my boys, Gary Horn, Dr. Robert Stinson, and Will Martin. I love those boys, and I don't want to hear anyone say anything negative about those gentlemen because they're family. We're all in part of this hashtag NWA fam, and so I've been rambling on for far too long. We'll see you next time, guys. Like I said, on Thursday, we'll see you at the matches. Good night now.